The Be the Ripple Kindness Cafe is a place to chat about ways in which businesses can build kinder, happier and more productive workplaces, one conversation at a time. So, welcome everybody to the very first Kindness Cafe from the Be the Ripple movement. My name's Joanna Suvarna and I'm the founder, and I'm absolutely honoured to be joined today by the wonderful Perry Timms. So hi Perry, lovely to see you.
Hi Joe, nice to be here, and glad you introduced yourself as the founder of the Be the Ripple movement, because from what started out as a sort of blog post and conversation has now become absolutely that. It's a movement. It's been brilliant. So hats off to you for doing that.
Oh, thank you very much, and thank you very much, because obviously you were a massive part of it coming to fruition. For anybody who doesn't know, I wrote a blog post and Perry guested that on his blog piece, and suddenly it just blew up out of nowhere, to all of our surprise, I think. But it kind of demonstrated what a big issue unkindness in the workplace is. And I know that that's something that you are really, you find really important as well, is the organisational cultures, Perry. And I saw something actually, I know you're working with HR Zone, you're one of their ambassadors, aren't you? And I wanted to talk a little bit about that as well, because I saw a lovely quote the other day that really spoke volumes to me, and I've got it on my phone so I can read it, so I don't quote you incorrectly. So you're quoted as having said, if we pay attention to our culture, we can create something almost magical. And if we neglect it, we can suffer for years. It's not just important, it's the most important factor in sustainable success. And I wanted to ask you about that, really. It's a brilliant quote.
Yeah, I thank you. I guess it's one of those things where, you know, you pick up sound bites throughout your working life, and lots of people quote the Peter Drucker culture eats strategy for breakfast quote. Kind of get the essence of it, but you know, the whole act of eating and consumption is almost a bit like, I'm not really sure that's where I want to be with a quote like that. But then when people try and describe organizational culture, you know, the way things are done round here and a million conversations and all those things I've heard about, I guess we forget that it is almost like a mystical source, because there are some companies that I've been really fortunate to spend some time in where the culture is so pronounced and so obvious and actually so beneficial to the people working there. You can almost stand back from it and go, how did that happen? And there really is no alchemy to it. There is no kind of press go button. It is quite literally something that's been created by the intersections of people, process, decisions, and so on. And it's built up gradually like this kind of tiny aggregation of things. And so when you think about that, and you think about like the spells that are associated with magic, they're letters and words that are jumbled into a certain sequence and a sort of wand waved, and something happens and you kind of think, wow, I can't even see the reason and the rationale for that. Culture is very much like that. So when I hear people talk about culture change programs, I sometimes go, oh, I'm not so sure. I get the fact that you'd want to arrest a culture in the nicest possible way that isn't doing your organization any good, particularly for the people that are there. But that doesn't mean to say you can reprogram it. I don't think it's that simple. So I think it's about attention to the magic and your part to play in the tiny parts of the construct of the spells that I think bring your organization to life. And where I've seen those magical forces in companies, there's a correlation and maybe even a causality to high performance, sustained success, but just this fulfillment that people experience. And that's what I stand for in the work that I do, which is people being fulfilled in what they do. I've often called it out. There are so many people who are transacting their way through their jobs, and the zombification of work, that I'm like, how did we get to that position? How do people feel so soulless about what they do, and yet feel trapped in the choice because economic sustainability or whatever forces that to happen? And culture is often part of that. Culture is often there that people have to tolerate bad behaviours, not great conditions and relationships, and that makes me sad. So yeah, the magic thing comes from that, but it really, really is not just a nice place to be, it's a fulfilling place to be. Not only do you belong, but you perform, and we all love to think we make a difference. That's where I think it comes back to.
I've been working for 30 years since I left school, but before that I was working part-time in a local market for a couple of years too. So in total 32 years. And I thought about how many organisations have I actually had experience of and have I worked with, and I worked it out. There's about 23 or 24 different organisations that I've been in different ways during those times, both in the UK and in South Korea. And it's exactly what you're talking about is the magic. So in some organisations, you can really feel that you're a part of something, you can really flourish. And then in other organisations, it's just the total opposite. And I know there was something I shared recently, and the analogy was about a canary going into the mine. I don't know if you saw this. Really powerful analogy. So the canary goes into the mine singing, you know, really happy, full of life, goes down to the mine, works for a little bit, comes out full of soot, really unhappy, really unhealthy. And it's a really great analogy for us to think about with organisational cultures, and quite the opposite to the magic that you're talking about.
Sure, definitely. And I guess, you know, in that instance, whilst the canary is kind of conscripted into it, it doesn't really have much choice. Its job to do there is to help detect gas, and therefore, you know, if it starts to choke, then the miners get out. So it's doing an essential job. But it is almost only regarded on its demise. And that's like, whoa, how many times have we heard that, where people have worked so hard and then they're off on some kind of stress-related instance. And then when they disappear, people are like, oh, but we used to go to them for so much and we relied on them for this and we missed them for that. It's like, why does it take absence for us to realise what impact people have on us? And so, again, it circles back to the kindness movement, really, which is if we took a kinder approach to appreciating that person, they may not have had to disappear, whether permanently or temporarily. So yeah, we don't want those canaries in that situation. Absolutely. We want them singing free and appreciating the song and the beautiful colours. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's exactly what the Be the Ripple movement is about, as you know, is bringing more kindness into workplaces, really looking at how can organisations inject more kindness. And not only that, but taking away unkindness as well. So we've got things like, you know, work-related bullying, discrimination, racism. So we're not just talking about the kind of fluffy stuff that's, you know, oh, wouldn't it be nice if we're all nice? We're talking about the really ingrained stuff that's embedded throughout organisations as well. And I know that we wholeheartedly agree on the reasons that this is really needed.
Yeah,
yes, definitely. Talking of kindness in organisations, there was something I really wanted to ask you about. I know that you've started a new initiative with your own organisation called Wellness Wednesday, and I'd love it if you could tell us about that.
Yeah, definitely. So I've been looking at the construct of the working week for quite some time, and also there's a history to this in that I can remember working as like an office manager with about 6 or 7 team leaders working to me, and then the teams that were working there. And on one particular team, there was a terrific member of the team. She had a young family and she worked 3 short days and then wasn't in the office on a Thursday and Friday, and her team leader was off on absence. And I thought, Dawn knows all of this, but there was this kind of tension with, but Dawn's not going to be there all the time, so how can you lead if you're not there all the time? So I spoke to Dawn and said, look, your boss is off soon. I'm seeing how you're performing. I know you could lead the team, not just from a knowledge perspective, but the respect you have. I said, but my challenge is you won't be there all the time, and I don't want you to have to change what you do because of that. And so she looked at me and kind of went, wow, I didn't even think anybody would ever ask me that question, which was a bit of a shock initially. But then also she said, well, I'd like to try and make it work. I'm like, okay, well, let's see what we can do. Anyway, between me, her and the team, we worked out that absolutely she could lead that team for the 2-week absence of her line manager. And you know what? It was brilliant because everybody kind of went, oh, yeah, great. We really like Dawn's style. And they all started to say, well, Dawn, when you're not here on a Thursday and Friday, if we can hold back, we will. But if not, there were a couple of us who could step in and make decisions or whatever. And I said, well, I'll do the signing of formal stuff. So we absolutely managed to re-engineer all the tasks that she wouldn't be able to do because of that. And that got me thinking about how people are viewed based on things like hours they do, not impact they have, right? So that's long story, long time ago. But then the 4-day working week or kind of came into mind when I was at a conference in Leeds, and it was a public sector conference. And lots of working parents formed into a little group because we were running a bit of a sort of hackathon, trying to come up with some cool ideas. And absolutely evident was the fact that the number of days was an inhibitor to those people developing their career. And they felt like they had to wait till their kids were about 10 or 11 before they could step up. And they were really frustrated by that. And I thought, well, who says 5 days absolutely has to be the thing that you have to have in order to qualify for a senior role or whatever. So it's stuck with me since then. Anyway, I mean, you've got people like the New Economics Foundation who've pushed for a 4-day working week. You've got lots of people talking about it now because of the pandemic, but specifically for our team. So we're dispersed, we're in 4 time zones, we are juggling different things. So, like one of the team in Australia works almost like to the back end of a day, and then one in Mexico tries to bring it all into the front end of a day. And because we were locked in at home and no variety and all that kind of stuff, I noticed we were working really hard, but we were all, me included, feeling really tired. And it wasn't just a Zoom thing, it was just the intensity of everything. And so thinking about this, I was like, well, why don't we do something like punctuate the week? And the word punctuate was deliberate, because lots of people look at 4-day week and think, great, long weekend. My experience of a long weekend is that actually it takes you harder yards to get back in the game on a Monday. You're almost like running uphill. So I thought, I wonder if we did 2 and then stopped and had a gap in the middle and then did 2. Is that a better way to do it? And I floated it by the team and they went, whoa, this is awesome. And so we said, look, what we're not going to do is we're not going to insist on hours. We're not going to insist on any changes to the revenue structures. We're just going to see what we can get done in an optimal fashion on a Monday and a Tuesday, recharge, escape, meditate, read, whatever, on a Wednesday, and then do Thursday, Friday back in the operating week. So it's only week 2, but I've read 5 books. I haven't read a book in ages. I read 2 last week, three yesterday. Wow. Countless life admin. People have been out in the sun and the walks and doing painting stuff and whatever. The idea isn't to almost kind of go, screw you working week, I'm getting out of it. The idea is I just need to recenter on me and get myself back in a good energized position, ready for the next 2 days. Now, on Thursday last week, after the first experiment in this, I found myself like pretty buzzing. But on the Friday, I was completely wasted again. And I was almost like, oh, what's going on here? And I think that was just because on Thursday, I was so enthused. I did a massive long day. So already lessons learned, right? Which is don't overcompensate by the day's break. So this week, already not that situation. So you kind of learn your way into this. It's way too early, obviously, to look at anything like productivity and output and focus and stuff. But the essence of it has captured so much attention. Like my LinkedIn post declaring this has had over 10,000 views. Wow. Most people saying, great, good on you. Nobody's saying you're nuts or how's this going to work or whatever. Nobody's pulling apart at the threads of how on earth are you going to. Nobody's doing that. People are going, oh, I love that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think when you first told me about it, I said, where's your organisation been all my working life? I didn't come with working for you for 30 years. It's a great idea, and I'm certain that when you do get to the point that you've got, you can measure it and you can see what impact it's had, I'm certain that it's going to have had a great impact.
I really, really hope so. So I think we've already declared that what we're going to do is like measures. We are going to look at things like, how's it impacted on clients and availability, and do we stack our days differently? But mostly we're going to centre on how do we feel? What do we feel about like? And do you know what? When you wake up on a Monday morning and you know that that's like the equivalent of a Thursday in most worlds, you kind of think that's pretty cool. So the Wednesday, if you want to call it the dip, because it's like right in the middle of it. Is actually a good thing now, because on a Tuesday evening we call it Friday 1.0. Do you know what I mean? So already our
Love it.
linguistic frame has changed, yeah. But I sense the vibe's a good one. So yeah, 2 weeks in, and there's nothing to tell me this is not going to work. And I've had people send me emails, and I've sort of not meant to look at them, but sometimes I pop up on your phone, and then another one comes up and it says, "Oh, sorry, I've interrupted your Wellness Wednesday." I'm like, I didn't expect that.
I think I've done that this week as well, so apologies for interrupting your non-working
It's all
day.
right. It's all right. Yeah, on the first week I did forget something for a client that I should have done on the Tuesday, so I spent 20 minutes doing that. But you know what? That was my only time on duty, and I didn't feel like I'd let anybody down. And I thought, well, that ain't bad, is it? That's not bad at all. But like I say, read 2 books last week and 3 yesterday.
Amazing.
So I am determined to see how it goes and get some evidence behind it, and then connect with those people that are lobbying for this, because I do want to join in the discussion that says, ignore this at your peril, because this could be a really good shift, especially in lockdown.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely agree with you. And that brings us nicely on, actually, leads us nicely into your new book. So you're talking about Wellness Wednesdays and that helping with energy levels within the organisation. So your new book, The Energized Workplace, is out very soon on August the 13th. So I'd love you to tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I describe myself as a chief energy officer, being sort of a bit of a hack on the CEO thing, and that was deliberate, because a lot of people, particularly one client, said that what I bring is not necessarily some kind of good models and theories, but just a lot of energy. And I was like, oh yeah. And since I found there's a guy in Germany called Bruce Diekman who's written a book called Chief Energy Officer, I'm thinking, hey, there's something in this. But it was all part of me getting a little bit I suppose you'd say agitated by the fact that people don't talk about energy in the workplace. Yet exhaustion, stress and so on are prevalent, right? So I got asked to do a TEDx talk for a business school over here in the UK, and they said, what are you going to talk about? And I said, I want to talk about energy at work. And they said, oh, tell me more. And I sort of crafted the speech, and they said, oh yeah, we like this. And I thought, well, I best research it then and get it right. So I did. With a bit of help from one of the team, we crafted the presentation and the speech and stuff, and honestly, it was like 16 of the most enjoyable minutes of my whole life, because I got to talk about something that suddenly I thought, this means more to me than I thought. And I talked about this concept of energy depletion and dirty energy and a lack of recognition of it in the way we design jobs. And I thought, I like this so much, I don't want to leave it there. And then when I got the chance to pitch for a book to the publisher after the first one did okay, they said, what do you want to do it on? And I gave them the sort of 10 chapter structure and everything as a thing. And they came back straight away and went, yeah, we should do this. I'm like, oh, great. So it kind of snowballed into that. And then I started to research a whole ton more in this area. And we've been not just slightly sort of misguided in not paying attention to energy. We've been downright negligent. We really have. There are far too many people who are utterly depleted by their work because it is absolutely not the manifestation of who they are and brings them to life. So I thought, well, I kind of owe the world perhaps a little bit of this. And do you know what? I put so much pressure on myself to get this as a piece that people would go, oh, this is it. As I said on the LinkedIn post, as I hit send off to the publisher for the final manuscript, I literally put my head in my hands and thought, I'm just not sure this is the book I should have written about this. I suddenly felt like inadequate and I hadn't covered enough. Wow. And then I got a tiny bit of feedback from somebody, and it was lovely actually. And she said, oh, I was really surprised there was nothing in there on positive psychology. And I just went, oh, what? I missed that as well. But I kind of thought I needed it to hit some key points, and maybe pos psych is great for people to find as a result of this. So I was like, okay, fair enough. There's a reason it wasn't in there. But then people like you and a few others who have read the sort of draft version of it gave me some really lovely feedback. I thought, well, maybe it's all right. I genuinely didn't know.
All right.
And all right. And maybe it's, more than all right then. Maybe it's what people need. Okay. And I think I read it as one of my 3 yesterday, which sounds really contrived. I read my own book yesterday, but I honestly hadn't looked at it as a reader for months. I'd only looked at it to edit. And I read it as a reader yesterday, and I thought to myself, crikey, I forgot there was some stuff there that really quite moved me too. And I was like, oh, maybe there is something good in this. So yeah, I used words in it like that we're already in a quiet pandemic, and it was pre-coronavirus, of course. And the quiet pandemic was stress and mental ill health at work. And a lot of that has come from oppressive systems and poor design and bad experiences and all that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking maybe this might get a few people going, hang on, I can do something here. And so I looked through the book, and there's personal things you can do, and there's collective things you can do. And right at the very end, I sort of described what I think is a model for an energized workplace that accounts for like hierarchical control still if you need it, but also brings people into an area where they've got agency, fluidity, experience, variety, all sorts of things. And as I read it, I thought, yeah, that is what I want to see happen. I do want companies to go consciously, I'm going to design this a lot more around the energy people bring and the energy we can give them back as a trade. And if nothing else, if that starts to happen, I'll be dead happy.
Me too, absolutely. And I think that kind of ties in nicely, as you said, with the canary as well, doesn't it? Going back to that.
True.
So it goes in with all full of energy,
True.
all vibrant at the beginning of the working experience. You go in full of energy, all excited, and then suddenly in some organisations that kind of gets taken away.
Toxicity,
so I'm absolutely with you. Yeah, absolutely.
Gosh, see, I wish I'd have put that in there now.
Well, that's the next book, maybe.
Next one, next version. Yeah, but I think it is something where I am hoping people go, energy can feel like it's quite an ethereal subject. It can be quite like, how do you put your finger on it even? But actually, there are things about us we don't know enough about. And this is a chance to discover that. And then there's something about when we bring people together, and going back to the culture magic thing, right? When people are together with a real sense of purpose, with absolutely their own choice about the energy they give in certain areas, there is something magic about the fact that they will put in lots of effort to that, but they'll get a lot out of it as well. And I've been in situations where, like, you know, I've been at sort of really intense conferences and I've been on stage and performed, and I come off and I'm exhausted. And I get tons of people coming up talking to me about what that meant and what they wanted to know about. And it goes back up again. It is an incredible source that doesn't necessarily need calories. It's like psychological stimulus, you know. Absolutely. So that's what I hope work will look like for a lot more people in the next sort of 5-year window. Yeah,
absolutely. And having read the book, as you said, I've read it. I can't wait to get my own copy so I can read it again, actually. Cool. And I've got a huge pile of reading that needs to be done, but that one I just couldn't put down. I loved it.
Good stuff. And just looping it back within it, I think there's something magical, mystical, and really energy given in kindness. I mean, I genuinely do. There is something about this whole phrase of I get lifted by lifting up others. And this whole thing of I'm going to give you some of my energy. I keep quoting the character John Coffey in The Green Mile. You know, how he kind of takes evil out of people, remember? Yeah. I kind of think it's not necessarily that I'm taking evil out of people. I'm just giving some of my stuff to you to spark you into action. But I don't deplete by that. I get a lift by that. So I was like, how does that happen? How do I lose some but gain more? And that's the kind of stuff I think kindness genuinely does. Random or otherwise, there is something about a gesture that you do that lifts another human being up that you cannot fail to just rise by. So whether it's somebody who's homeless on the street who you recognise and go and buy them a sandwich, or whether it's a friend in need who just needs an ear, or whatever it might be. But I think the act of kindness is in and of itself an energy giving and recreating thing.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Having worked in learning and development and teaching and tutoring for such a long time, that's why I get the passion, I think, from helping to develop people, is just to get the buzz and the energy from seeing them do brilliantly well. All right, so we're nearly at the end of the cafe already. Cool. It's gone super quickly. Wow. But I thought that what I do at the end of each of the cafes is use these neat little cards. Now, I'm not sure if you've seen them. They're Scott Liper's designed. Yeah,
I've got a pack.
Cognitize, and I'm absolutely thrilled. They only arrived yesterday, and I'm absolutely delighted with them. And there's just one, which is, if I could tell you one thing, and I thought this would be a really good thing that we could end every cafe with.
Nice.
Is to ask, what's your one thing? So what one piece of advice could you offer to a colleague based on your experiences in life and or career that may assist them in future. So it's very wide open, but if you could only give one piece of advice, what would it be?
Yeah, but I think there's something in it, which is, I'll sort of preface it first and then I'll give you the quote really. So often in work, what we are expected to do is come up with the answers. And so whether we're brand new to the job and somebody says, right, okay, I'm going to show you how to do this, now off you go and do it, you're almost like answering a question there, which is, have I taken that in? Am I capable, confident, and you can leave me to this job? You know, we're always kind of being asked questions like that. And I guess my one thing would be that if you don't know the answer, then be nice. And why I say that is because I think there is something that we try and do when we don't know the answer. We fudge it, we hide it, we push it away, fake it, whatever, because the expectation is we know the answer. And I think if you can be nice, there's a way that you can say, I don't know the answer, I didn't get that, I'm confused, but you do it in a way that's nice, not in a way that's derogatory to you or derogatory to them as your teacher or your questioner. So I think if you don't know the answer, be nice.
I love that actually, and it ties in really nicely with be kind, doesn't it? So be nice, be kind. It's the same kind of thing. So brilliant. Well, it's been absolutely delightful talking to you, Perry, and thank you so much as well for being a co-founder of the Be the Ripple movement, for being such a fantastic mentor for me. Thank you. And it's just an absolute pleasure knowing you and being part of this with you. And I can't wait for your book. So
yeah, you made me feel really excited about it, so thank you.
Perry's book, The Energized Workplace, will publish on the 13th of August 2020. You can pre-order your copy from Kogan Page or from Amazon. Thank you for joining our Kindness Cafe. There will be another cafe very soon. Our mission is to imagine a more positive future for all workplaces. Each of us creates a ripple in the workplace, and when we join ripples together, we can be the ripple that creates a huge wave of positive change. Want to join our Kindness Collective? If you're interested in being part of the Be the Ripple movement, here's how you can join us. You can find us on Twitter at Be the Ripple 2020. You can find our LinkedIn group by searching Be the Ripple. And you can also find us via our website. The URL is on the screen. We hope to see you very soon.